It is possible for other people to get deleted messages off your Facebook page. Essentially, any information that you're putting onto Facebook or any social networking site, you're putting that on another server, and they often have histories or logs on those computers that have recorded that information in the past. So when you're deleting something, it looks like online that it's gone, but it actually, if anyone wanted to go back and look at the histories on Facebook servers of your communication, that would be there. So it's not something to be trusted when you're deleting a message that then it means that people can't get your past history or communications. Inherently, social networking sites are just incredibly insecure. I think there's an overall problem Facebook has had where they've initially gone from a position of not having any privacy settings to having more. That scared off a lot of people from using it, and as a result, it has a reputation for being more insecure. That said, they've made a lot of changes recently, and it does seem to be more secure than it was. It's always important that you look at privacy settings on any social networking platform. The issues with Facebook is that they constantly change their privacy settings. So even though now it's more secure, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you have to really be on top of it. But I think the thing most importantly is any information that you're putting onto a social networking site, you're essentially giving up control of that information, so you have to be really careful. It's quite easy. Social networking is extremely vulnerable, and it's also anything that you're putting onto social networking can be seen and read by anyone else. So authorities really like social networking, and they like things like Facebook because you can both track what people are doing and then also see who their friends are. It is also easy for them to then put something on a Facebook site, say, they could actually use it to put an anti-government page up, and then anyone who is then liking that page, it's easy for them to see who has those sort of sympathies. So social networking is great for both monitoring and propaganda by authorities. If you're using social networking, it's really important that you understand how easy it is for information to be shared across social networking sites. So, and again, with anytime you're putting information anywhere, you have to understand how it's making you vulnerable and also how it's making activists and allies that are connected to you as being vulnerable. That said, social networking sites are a great place for doing organizing and getting information out. So the critical things there is finding the balance of what can you say and also who are you saying it to. On social networking sites like Facebook, you can adjust your privacy settings. You can send information to certain groups of individuals, and it becomes a more private place. But you always have to consider the fact that you're putting information and content somewhere else. It's on someone else's server, and it's quite easy for anyone who wants to get that information to get it. So if you're using VoIP communication software like Skype, the point-to-point communication, so going from on Skype, going from your PC and then talking to your friend's PC here, generally the communication across is encrypted, which means that no one else can hear it. However, there's recently been a number of viruses that have been identified and malware that can sit on your computer and record the conversations through the computer's audio system. So there's more and more ways that they're able to get around the encryption that's happening between the two computers. The other things that you always have to be aware of when you're using these things is you have to be aware of your surroundings. So is the room you're in, is that being monitored? Are you in an internet cafe? And if you're on the internet cafe, is somebody behind you listening in or looking over your shoulder or anything like that? So there's lots of ways that it can be vulnerable and can be getting around the encryption that everyone is taking for granted. There's two types of communications that you can do on Skype. One, of course, is voice, and having a phone conversation on the Skype call. The other is you can have text-based chat. Now, depending on the situation where you're in, if you are in a room where other people are listening to you, like in an internet cafe or something like that, you might want to use chat, the text-based chat, instead of the voice. So in that way, it might be more secure. The other thing to always remember, like if you don't know the computer well or anything like that, there can always be software on the computer that's both recording the conversation and also recording any keyboard strokes. So it can read and record text-based chats. It really depends on the situation, and it also depends on how well you know the computer and trust it. So webcams can be a point of vulnerability. Again, there can be viruses on the computer that actually turn your camera on and record what's going on. Now, the other thing that you always have to remember if you're using your webcam, this is something that you're transmitting. It's very easy for somebody on the other end to be recording or being able to get the video that's coming across the web camera. And there's many things that could be in the video that you would have to be thinking about, like that might reveal your location or something like that. So generally, webcams, yes, they are very insecure and they're quite vulnerable. Text-based chats like Gtalk, Facebook chat, those tend to be the most insecure forms of communication on the internet. So it's very, very important that you understand that it's really easy for people to read that communication. Now, if you do want to secure your text-based chat, there is something called, let's see here, it's called off the record, or OTR, and that is a plugin that you can use with whatever text-based client you're using, and you can get it here at security.ngoinabox.org. And again, how-to material and the software itself is localized into Farsi.